My greetings to everyone. In the ongoing series of Art of Being Happy, today we will be talking on implications of the happiness index. In this, we will be talking on the policy formulation, decision making, economic development, and prioritizing happiness, followed by the social welfare, resource allocation, workplace satisfaction and productivity, environmental society, social cohesion, awareness and support, the cultural preservation and diversity, followed by the global collaboration and diplomacy, the urban planning and livability, the personal well-being and life choices, and followed by the long-term sustainable happiness. So let us start with the introduction to implications of happiness index. It's very critical to comprehend the consequences of happiness indices in today's culture. These indices, which go beyond the conventional economic measurement to measure the population well-being, include the World Happiness Report and the Gross National Happiness. They support the decision makers in determining the efficacy of the social programs and in giving their citizens the well-being and the standard of living top priority. Through the analysis of the happiness promoting variables, including the social support, health and economic stability, the policy makers can make well-informed policies that enhance the well-being of the general public. The policy formulation, decision making, in a number of ways, the happiness indices have a big impact on how the government policies are made and how the decision makers approach the well-being. Firstly, the happiness indices help decision makers prioritize the strategies addressing the social support, mental health, and life satisfaction, recognizing that these factors are vital to citizens' well-being beyond economic criteria. Secondly, these indicators can identify the development sites the government can discover, community challenges, disparities by examining the happiness levels. If the social ties are weak in a particular area, the authorities should promote the social cohesion and the community involvement. The happiness indices aid the government decision making by assessing the policy effects on happiness, enabling the officials to modify the methods to promote the well-being, such as the environmental sustainability, income equality, and the healthcare access. So we can say that happiness indices give the government important information about the elements affecting the well-being of their constituents and direct them in the direction of enacting the laws that put the happiness and the standard of living of their people first. So now let us talk about the economic development and the prioritizing the happiness. Now the challenge for the nations is to balance the economic growth with enhancing the overall well-being of their citizens. Balancing the growth for wealth and the progress with the policies that enhance the well-being, which can be achieved through the various strategies. The first is the distribution of the income. Use targeted assistance programs and progressive taxation to combat the income disparity. Assuring a more equitable allocation of resources can actually enhance the overall satisfaction through the reduction of the wealth gaps. Next is your environmental sustainability. Encourage the environmentally friendly economic methods that help preserve the environment. The long-term harm to well-being can result from environmental degradation, which is why the sustainable growth is very, very crucial. The next is your work-life balance. Promote a work-life balance, promoting the laws and the regulations, such as those pertaining to paid family leaves, flexible working schedules, the vacation time, the stress at work, and overworking oneself can have a detrimental effect on the happiness. Support for the mental health. Make investments in mental health programs and work to lessen the stigma associated with the mental health problems. enhanced mental health is very essential for the general well-being. It takes a multifaceted strategy to balance the GDP with the well-being of the residents, taking into account their social health and environmental needs. To achieve the long-term sustainability and ensure the well-being and the welfare of all the members of society, a commitment is necessary. So, the social welfare and the resource allocation, the government can actually gain a comprehensive understanding of the residents' well-being through the happiness indices, which is essential for promoting the fair resources distribution and reducing the inequality. So, here's how they contribute to the accomplishment of these goals. Identifying the disparities. The happiness indices reveal the differences in the well-being among the different regions and the demographic categories. The areas with the highest rates of inequality and unequal resource allocation can be found using these statistics. Now, measuring the social development. The happiness indices measure the social elements like freedom, trust, and the social support, helping the government assess the effectiveness of their social development programs and ensure the overall well-being rather than solely focusing on the economic growth. So, we can say that happiness indices offer the government a method to allocate the resources and the policies that minimize the inequality and promote the social development, enabling more nuanced and equitable resource allocation and ultimately leading to a just and equitable society. The next is your workplace satisfaction and productivity. Due to their ability to increase the productivity and enhance the employee contentment, the happiness indices have a big impact on the organizations. The first is your employee engagement. The work-life balance, the connections at work, and job satisfaction are all common components of the happiness indexes. The organizations can pinpoint the areas in the need of development by using these indices to measure the employee satisfaction. Next we have is the retention and recruitment. The companies with a focus on employee well-being and adoption of the happiness indices as a tool for improvement frequently experience the reduced rates of employee turnover. Next we have is the well-being initiatives. The happiness indices could draw attention to how important wellness activities and the programs are. Employers can use this data to fund the employee wellness initiatives, which can actually lower the absenteeism and improve the general health, both of which boost the output. So, happiness indices are an invaluable tool for the companies looking to boost the employee satisfaction, foster a happy work atmosphere, and eventually increase the productivity. So, the organizations can achieve a win-win scenario where employees and the companies they gain by addressing the elements that affect the employee happiness. Next we have is in environmental sustainability. Now, happiness indices emphasize the importance of environmental well-being in the following ways, which greatly influences the development of sustainable practices. All-encompassing well-being evaluation. The happiness indexes acknowledge the importance of environmental elements to people general well-being, including the clean air, access to nature, and a robust ecosystem. So, this all-encompassing the strategy pushes the legislators to view the environmental quality as vital element of societal well-being. Next we have is a length of time view. A long-term view of well-being is encouraged by happiness indices since environmental degradation can have a gravely detrimental repercussions on the future generations. The global collaborations. The international cooperation on environmental concerns can be promoted by combining the happiness indices with the environmental factors indicators, recognizing that the cooperative actions enhance the environment for all people, nations may cooperate to improve the global environmental circumstances. So, the happiness indices that consider the environmental well-being, they promote the sustainable and the equitable societal advancement, leading to a healthier, happier communities. Now, this encourages the government, corporations and individuals to prioritize the environmental considerations, ultimately promoting a healthier planet. Next we have is a community building and a social cohesion. Now, following are important implications of happiness indices for building a better community and the social bonds. The first is to focus on community well-being. The happiness indexes emphasize the role that is a sense of belonging, trust and the social ties they play in one's general well-being. The local leaders, organizations are encouraged to fund the community building projects and the activities, since these communities typically rate the higher in satisfaction rankings. Next is we have promoting a civic involvement. Now, engagement in the civic life is frequently linked to a high level of happiness. The happiness-focused communities are more likely to have a higher rates of volunteerism, community organizations, and the local event participation, all of which foster a sense of community. The public awareness. People are motivated to actively participate in creating a stronger communities when they are aware of happiness indices. People are more likely to take part in pro-social activities and behavior that deepen the social ties when they are aware of the elements that lead to happiness. So, we can say that happiness indices are a very important tool that communities can use to evaluate and enhance their well-being and the social cohesiveness. The communities can establish a more cohesion and encouraging atmosphere that strengthens the social ties by concentrating on the elements that lead to happiness. The mental health awareness and support. Happiness indices are very essential for increasing the awareness of the value of mental health and have the potential to enhance the social network in the following ways. The first and the foremost is mental health indicators included. The life satisfaction and emotional well-being are two examples of the mental health measures that are included in many happiness indices. The stigma reduction. The inclusion of mental health indicators in happiness indices reduces the stigma associated with the mental health issues, promotes a candid discussions and reduces the stigma associated with the treatment. Next is we have a public awareness. The importance of mental well-being is brought to the public attention through the happiness indices inclusion of mental health. This may result in a rise of mental health literacy, which will motivate people to ask for assistance when necessary and to encourage one another on their path towards the mental wellness. So, happiness indices acts as a trigger for acknowledging the role that mental health plays in general well-being, lowering the stigma, influencing the public policy and creating a more accepting atmosphere for people who are dealing with mental health concerns. Next we have is a cultural preservation and diversity. The happiness indices have significant ramifications for accepting the diversity, protecting the cultural heritage, two things that enhance the societal well-being, identify and welfare of the culture. The significance of the cultural identity in an individual's general well-being is acknowledged by happiness indices. The happier communities are typically those who celebrate their cultural heritage, Now, this knowledge promotes the upholding and advancement of cultural customs and practices as a way to improve the well-being. Next we have is the social cohesion. People who embrace the diversity and value the cultural history tend to have a stronger social ties and a greater sense of belonging. The diversity-friendly communities are typically closer knit and more peaceful, which improves the people's general well-being. The cultural and educational initiatives. The government can fund the cultural and educational programs that promote the cultural respect, understanding, social interaction and enjoyment by enhancing the social interactions. So, the happiness indices support the preservation of the cultural legacy and acceptance of diversity as an essential element of a healthy society. Through acknowledging the benefits of the cultural identity and inclusivity, the communities can foster a more peaceful and a pleased atmosphere for their members. Next, let us talk about the corporate social responsibility. The happiness indices incentivize the companies to coordinate their CSR endeavors with the enhancement of social well-being through multiple means. The statistics on happiness offer a numerical representation of the state of society. Now, these indices can be used by the business to evaluate how successfully their CSR initiatives are contributing to the happiness and the well-being of the communities in which they operate. For this, we have a holistic approach. The health, the social support, and the environmental quality are only a few of the factors of the well-being that happiness indexes take into account. Now, this all-encompassing viewpoints, they motivate the companies to expand their CSR programs beyond the conventional charity in order to meet the various demands of society. Next we have is a brand reputation. A company's reputation is improved when its CSR initiatives are in line with the welfare of society. The business with a strong CSR focus on enhancing the happiness and the well-being can increase the customer loyalty and the trust. Now, as the consumers are increasingly drawn to socially conscious companies, recruiting and retaining the talent. The top talent is frequently drawn to the companies that prioritize the societal well-being through the corporate social responsibility. A firm that has a strong social responsibility culture is more likely to have engaged and devoted employees, which is ultimately beneficial to the organizations. The happiness indexes can really help the firms review, refine, coordinate their corporate social responsibility efforts to improve the society. By actively supporting their communities, the business may help create a happier, more affluent society. Now, this benefits them beyond their bottom line. The global collaboration and diplomacy. The happiness indexes are important for fostering the goodwill and international understanding in a number of ways. The ground truth. The happiness indexes, they offer a very common measure that cuts over the societal, political and financial divides. When the countries acknowledge their shared objectives of advancing the pleasure and the well-being, a shared understanding that may cross boundaries is created, which is a wonderful thing. Now, diplomatic priorities. The nations that place a high value on the contentment and the welfare of their people are frequently more likely to practice non-violent diplomacy. Now, this focuses on the welfare of the group, which might result in diplomatic initiatives meant to settle disputes and promote collaboration. Next we have is a conflict resolution. The social support, trust and freedom, three pillars of happiness indices, are frequently essential elements of the stable, peaceful communities. Now, these ideas can actually serve as a framework for the efforts of peacemaking and conflict settlement between the nations. So, we can say that happiness indices support the notion that the contentment and the well-being are the global goals, encouraging a mutual understanding and harmonious international relations. The nations are more likely to cooperate to solve the global issues and build a more peaceful world if they emphasize the value of everyone's well-being. Now let us talk about the urban planning and the livability. The happiness indices encourage the creation of more livable, people-centered cities, which has a revolutionary effect on the urban planning. Life quality matrix. The happiness indices include the things like low crime rates, access to open spaces, and clean air are necessary elements of the well-being. Now, these indices have a significant impact on the urban planners who give top priority to develop the surroundings that provide a very high quality of life for their constituents. The urban planners, they create the neighborhoods that encourage the social ties based on the findings of the happiness indices, which highlight the significance of the social support and the community participation. The communities that are cohesive and happy are mostly shaped by the public gathering places, parks, and community centers. So, happiness indices give urban planners a road map for building communities that put their citizens' happiness and the well-being first. And these matrices foster more livable and fulfilling urban settings by promoting the social connections, sustainability, and the people-centric approach to the urban planning. Now let us talk about some personal well-being and life choices. Understanding the happiness indices, it has a significant big impact on people's lifestyle, career, and life decisions in a number of ways. The first is your career options. The work-life balance, the job satisfaction are becoming more and more important considerations when choosing a career. People who are aware of happiness indices are more inclined to pursue the jobs that are in line with the personal values and the well-being as opposed to ones that are just financial advantageous. So, the lifestyle and consumption. Materialism impact on happiness is demonstrated by the happiness indices. People may choose to live more sustainable and mindfully, emphasizing the relationships, experiences, and the modest consumption above extravagant material belongings. Health and well-being practices. People may prioritize the self-care, the exercise, the mindful techniques in their daily routines as a result of their increased awareness of the significance of both physical and the mental health for happiness. Next, we talk about the social links. The importance of social relationships and the social support is emphasized by happiness indices. People might devote more time and energy to creating and preserving a deep social ties as they become aware of their benefits for the general well-being. People are encouraged to mark life decisions, job decisions, lifestyle decisions, and adjustments that put their happiness and the well-being ahead of merely materialistic or financial aspirants when they are aware of happiness indices. So, long-term sustainable happiness focuses the emphasis on systematic problems that support the long-term well-being, which promotes the sustainable happiness, that is, income inequality. The happiness indices show that income inequality can really harm the well-being and the social cohesion. The politicians want to reduce the economic disparity to ensure the equitable distribution of resources and the long-term happiness. Next we talk about is the psychology. Now these indices, which recognize the correlation between happiness and the mental health, pushes for society to place a higher priority on the mental health by means of destigmatization initiatives, accessible health care and awareness campaigns, systematic mental health treatments, and promotes a long-term sustainability. So the sustainability of environment is very necessary for the happiness. The government and communities should be encouraged by the happiness indices to implement the eco-friendly policies, practices in order to preserve a high standard of living for the future generation. Not only this, we should also talk about the work-life equilibrium. Now, these indices support the structural adjustments in the workplace like paid leaves, flexible work schedules that help the employees achieve a better work style, a work-life balance, and eventually improve their long-term happiness. So, in the end, we can say the happiness indices promote a long-lasting well-being by promoting a systematic reforms that deal with underlying causes of misery, which leads to a society that is more just, psychologically sound, socially cohesive, ecologically conscious, and environmental conscious. Thank you so much.